do not remember how to do this. Is that good? That'll have to do. Hello. 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 Hiya, love. You alright, kid? I really don't remember how to do this, but we're gonna give it a try anyway. Hello, it's Joe. It's been a while since I have filmed a video. I think the last one was like 6 months ago, roughly, before the world turned to shit. I hope you're all doing well, or as well as can be expected in this difficult time that we're going through right now. But I finally have a chance to film. My family is not in the house and I was just in the mood, so I thought, why the hell not? I'll be honest with you, I haven't really prepared for this video. I've wrote down the questions. And my answers to the questions, but beyond that, I'm kind of just winging it. So hopefully this won't be too much of a mess. Anyway, I am here to do the mid-year book freakout tag. I am going to leave the links in the description to the original tag. Whoever made it, I have no idea at this point, to be honest, but I'll figure that out later. And I'll also be leaving a bunch of other useful things in the description, links to how you can help the state of the world right now, and some trigger warnings for the books that I'm about to mention. So yeah, be sure to check out the description after you are finished watching this video. So, mid-year book freakout tag. Question number 1 is, what is the best book you've read so far in 2020? Ugh. Ow! Oh, Jesus Christ. And the best book that I've read so far this year is Becoming by Michelle Obama. This is Michelle Obama's memoir. I don't really feel like I need to explain it any more than that. It's just about Michelle Obama's life, written by Michelle Obama. The audiobook is narrated by Michelle Obama. I listened to that and it was a great time. She has a very soothing voice, even on 2 times speed, because I always listen to audiobooks on 2 times speed. This was just incredible. It is funny at times, it's heartbreaking at times. I learned a lot from it, and it definitely lived up to all the hype that it's getting, and you should definitely read it if you haven't already. The next question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2020? And for this, I went with Godsgrave by J. Kristoff. This is the second book in the Nevernight Chronicle, or trilogy, whatever you want to call it. And basically it is a fantasy assassin series, but in my opinion it's one of, if not the best fantasy assassin series out there. It's not for everyone, I know. J. Kristoff's writing is kind of hit or miss for people. Personally, I really enjoyed it, and this book in particular I really loved because there is the found family trope, which I absolutely love with all of my heart and soul. And also Mia, who is the protagonist of this series, does a lot of growing up and maturing in this book, in my humble opinion. And I just think it was a brilliant way to take the series to the next level, because the first book is very much still kind of a typical assassin book, but personally I still really enjoyed the first one. This one was a huge step up, and yeah, that's why it's the answer to this question. The next question is, new release that you haven't read yet but want to, and I have chosen House in the Cerulean Sea. Is that what it's called? Yeah, The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. It's getting quite a lot of hype around BookTube recently, and I'm not 100% sure what it's about, to be honest, but I remember the things that I had heard about it are really good. And the cover's nice as well. I don't actually think it's released yet here in the UK, but it's released elsewhere, so I'm just going to count it for this question. Question number 4 is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And for me, that's beyond easy. It is A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir, which is the 4th and final book in the Ember quartet, the first of which is called An Ember in the Ashes. So the first book follows a girl named Laya who has to pose as a slave in order to get the rebellion to help her rescue her brother, who is her only family because the rest of the family have been killed tragically. This has quickly become one of my favourite fantasy series of all time, and the 4th book comes out in the second half of this year, and I am super excited to get to it and really scared to see how it's going to end, because Sabaa Tahir has a let's call it an affinity for torturing her characters, so but we'll see how it pans out in the 4th book. So question 5 is biggest disappointment, and I couldn't choose just one, so I have a stack of 4 most disappointing books of the year so far. The first one is The Mercies by Kieran Millwood Hargrave, yes, and this is Kieran Millwood Hargrave's debut adult novel. She usually writes children's books, and then she debuted last year with her first young adult novel, which was The Deathless Girls. You might remember me talking about it in one of my past videos because it was one of my favourite books of last year. I loved it so much, which is why I was so excited to pick this up. Unfortunately, it did not grab me the way that The Deathless Girls did. It's just quite boring, to be honest. It's been a few months since I've read it, first of all, but my lingering feeling towards this book is it was just quite boring. The characters, I do not remember any of the names whatsoever, barely remember any of the events in the book, and that's kind of all I have to say, but at least the cover's beautiful, so I will be keeping it just for that reason alone. Next is Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera, which is Adam Silvera's debut fantasy novel. He usually writes contemporary slash, no, I guess the contemporaries with like a dash of sci-fi and romance in them. But this is his first fantasy book, and despite all of the early reviews being negative, I was still really excited to read it and really hopeful, and I really wanted to enjoy it. But unfortunately, that was not the case. This book has some of the most annoying characters I have ever read about, and it was almost torture to have to read from their perspectives. But it's over now and I never have to read it again. I will say that I think this book would adapt well to TV/film, and I'm pretty sure I heard somewhere that this is getting adapted. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if so, I would probably watch that because I think it'd lend well to a screen instead of, you know, a book. But for now, it is a book, and it was a disappointing book. Another disappointing read, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I'm sure we've all heard of this, but if you don't know, this is the prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy, which is one of my favourite series of all time. This follows Coriolanus Snow, who is President Snow in the original trilogy. This book, it just doesn't need to exist. I personally think that this would have been a lot better if it had been told from the perspective of Sejanus, who is one of the side characters, who is pretty much the only character that I actually liked. If it was told from his perspective, then I feel like it could have been really good, but it wasn't. It was told from Snow's perspective, and Snow just does not live up to Katniss Everdeen whatsoever, so this was just not good. And the fourth disappointing book that I'm going to mention, I'm just going to quickly mention it because my last video is a whole rant review about it, and it's The King of Crows by Libba Bray. It's the final book in the Diviners series, and it's not good, folks. It's really not. The first book I thought was decent enough for me to continue with the series, so I read the second book, Lair of Dreams. That was really good, a huge step up in my opinion, and so I was extremely excited to continue. Then I read Before the Devil Breaks You, which is the third book, and it was not as good as the second book, but not bad enough for me to completely abandon the series now that I was 3 books in at that point. So I was still looking forward to this when it came out, and unfortunately it just didn't live up to my expectations. In fact, it completely ruined the series for me, but like I say, I have a whole rant review on my channel, so you can go and watch that whenever you want to. Next question is biggest surprise of the year so far, and for this I have chosen Hurricane Child by Kason Calendar. This really surprised me because it is a children's book that I wasn't expecting to like, and I really liked it. The reason I wasn't expecting to like it was because I read Kason Calendar's young adult book called An Epic Love Story or something like that, and I didn't really like it that much, but I'd already bought this, so I was like, I'm just gonna give it a go. And I'm not hugely into children's books as an adult, so my expectations were quite low. However, it really surprised me. So I ended up really liking this. The writing, in my opinion, was a lot better in this than it was in the YA book of Kason Calendar's that I read. It was a lot more descriptive, and I found the atmosphere to be a lot more rich. Maybe it's because I read this while listening to tropical island sounds to get me into, you know, the mood of the book, and I think that really helped, to be honest. The friendship between the main character Caroline and one of the other characters was beautiful, to be honest. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it actually reminded me of one of the friendships I used to have when I was a bit younger, so that was really unexpected and really helped me to enjoy the book even more. And if you haven't given this a go, I would highly recommend it. So the next question is favourite new author, debut author, or new to you? And for this one, I've actually chosen Cassandra Clare. Yes, I realised that Cassandra Clare is a hugely popular author already, but I'd never read anything of hers until this year when I read the Infernal Devices trilogy, and I really enjoyed it. I'll be honest. I thought the characters were great. It has probably the best love triangle I have ever read about, so if you are looking for a love triangle that is actually good, then I would try this out. I wouldn't say she's like a favourite author by any means, but she's a favourite new author. Yeah. Question 8 is newest fictional crush or crushes. I'm not really the type of person that gets crushes on book characters, to be honest. I'm quite shallow and need to actually see the person to have a crush on them, as bad as that sounds. But I have chosen Alizade and Zainab Al-Qahtani from The Empire of Gold. They are a brother and sister, and both of them I just love them. I didn't love Ali much at all in the first book in this trilogy, but he definitely grew on me a lot. And Zainab was just always great, if I'm being honest. They are the closest that I can think of to being a crush of mine. Question 9 is newest favourite character, and I'm bringing this book back because Jem Carstairs, he is my newest favourite character. I'm just a sucker for like those soft boy type characters. I don't know what it is, but I just love them a lot. I love reading about them, and Jem is just so kind and understanding, yet also protective and brave and selfless. I could go on, I really could go on, but I really do not have the time. So Gem Carstairs, newest favourite character. Question 10 is a book that made you cry. And for this I have chosen Cilka's Journey by Heather Morris, which is the sequel / companion novel to The Tattooist of Auschwitz. This follows Cilka, who has survived Auschwitz only to be put in a Siberian prison camp for 15 years, and it's actually based on a true story. So I mean, that alone is cry-worthy, but this book is just incredibly written and incredible in general. So this was like first in my mind when I was thinking of books that made me cry, for sure. It's a heavy hitter. Question 11 is a book that made you happy, and for this I have chosen the book that I last read, MumLife, What Nobody Ever Tells You About Being a Mum by Louise Pentland. Louise Pentland is a YouTuber / blogger / author / mum. She's a good egg, as she would say, and I've been watching her YouTube videos since 2013, and she put this book out, which is her memoir about her time being a mum and how the death of her own mother shaped her, kind of. And it just made me so happy because it was great to see how much Louise has progressed over the years. Like, she's really become such an amazing person. She's a really good mum, and I really enjoyed this book. In fact, this book made me cry as well, so I could have used it for the last question, but overall it made me happy more than anything, which is why I chose it for this one. Question 12 is most beautiful book you've bought so far this year, and come on now, look at that. Stunning. I don't even need to say anything. Beautiful. And the very last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I have a whole stack here, so let's just go through them. Well, there's only 4, so sorry if you can hear me dog barking. The first one is Given by Nandi Taylor. I don't really know much about this. All I know is it has shapeshifters and it has dragons, and that's all I needed to know. Those are 2 very beautiful words to me. Shapeshifters and dragons. I'm sold. Next is The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. This was highly recommended to me by Deirdre from Shade Tree Reads, whose channel I will link below. I kind of just saw, I think she tweeted about it, and that caught my attention somehow, and all of a sudden I'd ordered it and it was in my hands, and here it is, but I haven't read it yet. So I'm definitely going to read this before the end of the year, and I'm very excited to do so. Another one I'm really excited to read before the year ends is Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy. I read Red Rising at the beginning of this year and had mixed feelings, but overall I did end up enjoying it, and I really want to see what happens next. And Jordan Harvey has said this is one of her favourite books of all time, so I am expecting great things. And the last book that I want to read before the year ends is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the Last Hours trilogy or series. I'm not really sure, but Mariam from Mariam Reads Sometimes, she's the one that kind of got me into Cassandra Clare, and she read this book and loved it, and now I want to read this book and love it. So that's about all the reason I have. I don't really know much about it, except that it's set after the Infernal Devices, and I'm pretty sure it's the children of the characters in that trilogy. So, sounds good. So that was the mid-year book freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below the best books that you've read so far, and books that you are anticipating in the second half of the year. All that good stuff, please leave it in the comments. Again, I'll just remind you to check the description for useful links and my social media links as well, which aren't very useful, but you know, maybe they'll be of interest to you. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having an amazing day. Stay safe, wear a mask. Goodbye.